Hello and welcome. I'm in the early stages of a discussion with Red Beetle, who is a Calvinist, with regard to the doctrine of Sola Fide. As a result of a question that he asked Catholic Exodus on his YouTube site, "Are you sure you know what Sola Fide is?" I responded as follows. On the face, Sola Fide means only faith or faith alone. The words sola, only, or alone exclude. So if justification were really by sola fide, it would contradict the scriptures, James 2:14 through 26 et al., but it would also rule out grace. Without controversy, the scriptures teach salvation is by grace through faith, but nowhere do they say by grace alone, through faith alone. Now, in response, Red Beetle asks, what makes you think James chapter 2 is discussing justification before God, coram Deo? What if the context is discussing justification before men, coram mundo? Well, to which I replied, then it would be justification before men. But this is not what the context is dealing with. The Spirit uses Genesis 15 in the same way here as he does in Romans. In both places, he is speaking about God's justification of Abraham and not man's justification of him. Red Beetle's response was, why did you try to establish the entire context of James chapter 2 by starting at verse 21, then jumping to verse 23, then Genesis 15, then Romans? Did you not claim the context begins with verse 14? Is it not logical to start at the beginning? Well, of course, it would have been the preferred way to begin, but give me a break. The amount of space in the reply box is so small that it would be impossible with less than 500 characters, not words, characters, to work with. It would be impossible to give any meaningful exegesis of these verses. What I wrote was a conclusion that I have drawn from these verses after years of study. I would have assumed that Red Beetle would have understood this, but obviously I was mistaken. And so in response, I wrote him and said that I would be willing to exegete these verses in another format. And so this video, this will be the first of several in which I will give a brief exposition of James chapter 2, verses 14 through 26. I want to begin, however, this study by reading the verses, and I'll read from the King James, which seems to be the preferred version of Red Beetle. What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works, can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding you give them not the things which are needful to the body, what doth it profit? Even so faith, if it has no works, is dead being alone. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one God? Thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works, when he offered Isaac his son upon the altar? Seest thou how faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called a friend of God, or the friend of God. You see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only. Likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers, and had sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Now these verses have been the occasion of much controversy over the years. Martin Luther was so disturbed at how they conflicted with his understanding of Romans and Galatians that he regarded James with contempt and called the epistle a right strawy one. Others, in an attempt to reconcile James with their understanding of Romans and Galatians, have come up with some ingenious ways to do this, believing that Paul teaches that faith alone without obedience to Jesus is all that is required for justification, and knowing that James teaches that faith alone is dead in itself, James 2:17, is barren, James 2:20, and is dead, James 2:26, knowing that James teaches that faith without works cannot save, James 2:14, they contend that James is speaking about a pretended faith, while Paul is speaking about faith that is genuine. Others say that James and Paul are speaking about different kinds of justification. While Paul is speaking about justification before God, they say, James is speaking about justification before men. Then there are those who say that it is a mixture of both. That James is speaking about a less than genuine faith, and also a faith before men, or justification before men, while Paul is speaking about a genuine faith, but a justification also before God. However, as the context will show, the difference between Paul and James lies not in how they use the word faith, or saved, or justified. Their difference lies in how they use the word works. While Paul speaks of works in which one may glory, or in which one may boast of, and also he speaks about works which actually nullifies grace, James actually speaks about works which quicken faith, which make it alive, and which perfect faith. James begins the section by asking the question, "What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him?" The allegation that James is speaking about a pretended faith is certainly not borne out by the Greek, since the Greek word that James uses is exactly the one used by Paul in Romans 5:1 and Ephesians 2:8 and other places. But is the allegation that James is speaking about a pretended faith borne out by the context? And this is the true issue, or the real issue. Now, some of my Sola Fide friends say, well, yes, of course it is. And they say if it is not the case, then there is a real contradiction between James and Paul. We are told that the introductory phrase, "though a man say," is actually an admission that the man really did not have faith. He just said that he did. The reality, however, and this is the truth, is that the phrase is meant to show that the man had faith, but had no works. What a man had in this occasion is faith alone. And the only possible way of identifying the existence of such faith as this is from what a man says. I have faith. How else could such a faith as faith alone be known? That the professor did indeed have faith is evident from James's question when he asked the question, can faith, or can that faith save him? James is admitting that he had faith. And he's saying, but can it save? What kind of faith are you talking about, James? Well, the kind of faith without works. The question is worded in such a way as to require a negative answer. No, such a faith cannot save. It lacks the ability to save. And here we see James's first refutation of the doctrine of Sola Fide, which he was combating here in this section of Scripture. Sola Fide, that men are saved by faith alone. Now, James does not deny that a man is saved through faith, but he simply denies that one is saved only by his faith. Now, here's a question that I want to ask as I close the first lesson, and that is this. And I want to ask it, and then I will give a more thorough answer at the end of in the next few lessons. But the question is this. If faith alone cannot save, then what about a faith that one not only professes to have, but which works too? Does this faith save? And as we shall see, this is the only kind of faith that can save. And hence, the doctrine of Sola Fide is shown to be wrong. No man can be saved by faith alone. I'll see you later on. If you like to make a response to this, feel free to do so. And if you like to correspond, that'd be okay too. I am busy, but I will try to get back to you because this is certainly an important issue. I bid you Godspeed until next time. Bye for now.